Yeah.
Got the goods? Let's see. 3 out of 5 ain't bad. Pleasure doing business with you.
Hello. This one? Have a good day. Good day.
Lyria and Vern became a regular fixture at the studio. They said they wanted to be there when Shanae finished her latest piece. I felt much the same. Her pieces were charming, even while portraying the thin line between life and death. Rare to get drama like that outside of a novel. But my true reason for visiting was out of concern, not interest. She was battling an unpredictable disorder, so I wanted to be around should the worst come to pass.
Could you stick around for a few? I need to run out and buy a few things.
You dare waste my time with your foolish errands? Fine, but at least be quick about it. After Heimel left, Shanae waved me closer to her bed.
After all you've done, I don't want to sound ungrateful, but...
Her voice quivered. She was plainly troubled.
I don't know if I can say this. Wow. Okay, I want my brother to be free. I don't want to bind him any longer.
Tears began to gloss her eyes.
Without me holding him back, he could find someone and settle down. He has such a kind heart. He needs to share it. If I'm ruining his life, then I would rather not be in it at all. Please take...
I interrupted her. I don't condone this, and I doubt your brother would either. Oh boy. If there was ever a time to talk about my past, this was it. Look, I've been in your shoes. There was nothing the village doctors could do, and I was abandoned by damn near all the townsfolk. For the dying, hope was cheap. It was better to look inevitability in the face and maintain some of your dignity. But there was one person who stood beside me. My light. My rock. My sister. She was with me the entire time, keeping me warm in the shadow of death. And in turn, I gave her the comfort of company, not being alone in this world. I continued to detail memories of my sister, over 2,000 years old, hoping that Shanae would get the point. She hung on to every word, When I concluded my story, to my disappointment, Shanae seemed to pick up the wrong message.
How did you get better?
Simple. The curse of genius. I developed an entire school of magic and abandoned my wretched body. I couldn't suppress a proud grin. She nodded along, not quite understanding. I couldn't blame her. Few people had the opportunity to learn the glory of alchemy, especially in these far-flung skydoms. Imagine your body is a jar and your soul is water. I created a fresher, cuter jar and poured my soul into it.
You can do that sort of thing?
Shanae cupped her mouth in surprise. Don't insult me. There's nothing I can't do. She grew silent as gears began to whir in her head. A few moments later, she stared at me with pleading eyes and spoke.
Could you do it for me?
Well, that was predictable. But I could relate to her predicament, and that alone made me want to help. If you really want to go through with this, I can make you a jug too. However, you should know. It wasn't going to be simple. A soul swap was messy on an experienced alchemist's psyche, much less a mundane girl's. Nor would I be around to perform maintenance down the line. It could very well be a fast track to the grave. And to inhabit an alchemized body was to stray from the natural order. She would forever be a false life form. Shanae had no knowledge of the arcane, and she was struggling to grasp these factors. And what's worse, I didn't have the decades needed to explain the details. So I opted for a simpler route, and explained the side effects in more mortal terms. Even if your memories, knowledge, and personality make the jump, you will never feel the same. Your senses will feel foreign. Your fine motor skills will be dulled. In short, goodbye, art. Take, for example, the sky. We each paint it in our own way. One may clumsily blob some white on a blue background, while others might choose a deeper hue or express the clouds with more definite contours. Art is a negotiation between the artist's mind, eye, and hand. And if 2/3 of that equation were to change, then the artist might as well be a different person altogether. Even I, genius that I am, took centuries to adapt to this process. Finally, it means you won't be human. You'll have to maintain your body like a machine, and you'll never have children. Is any of this sinking in?
But
Shanae looked down at her hands, as if it were the first time she had ever seen them. It was never an easy decision. Even my sister begged me not to abandon my mortality, right until I made the hop into a new vessel. The silence was deafening. Shanae was considering her past, and what abandoning it would mean for her future. I observed her until I grew impatient. There's no reason you have to make up your mind now. As long as you found an answer before we sail out of this skydom, I can help you either way. Capiche? I turned to leave, causing the bedridden girl to lunge after me.
wait! I don't care about losing my art. If it will free Heimel to live his life, then my choice is clear.
Her tears were pierced by a genuine smile. She bore the pain of losing her creative soul and the joy of gaining a liberated brother. Even with my infinite understanding of the universe, I could not say which of those emotions was stronger. You sure you don't want to talk to him first? She shook her head. I felt a small pang of regret. I led her down this path because I, on some level, felt we were alike in our suffering. But the truth was, I had an, I won't say easier way out. The same solution applied to Shanae's problem would be far more complicated. If anything, I felt like I understood Heimel's position more. He would simply want what was best for his sister. Just like how my own sister had wanted what was best for me. After leaving the studio, I made a list of all the materials the procedure would require. It was going to be a pain in the homunculus to gather everything, so I enlisted the crew to help. I had my sights set on the Pillar of Vayoi. Due to the high concentration of arcane energy, the materials found there made for powerful alchemical reagents.
Wait till you see! Shanae's paintings are breathtaking, and I'm not just saying that. The world needs her talent.
Curse that proud face of yours, Heimel. Look what you've made me do.
Do-do-do-do-do-do! Charge! Cagliostro's coming for your cores, Mr. and Mrs. Spirit People!
And while I'm at it, I might pick up a few alchemical reagents in the process.
Let's go, gang!
Great. This won't help anyone. Useless trash. Great. This won't help anyone.
Yay! This'll do the trick!
Look at all those spirits! What do you call a group of them anyway? A herd? A flock?
I call him target practice. Now come on, we need dark and light cores. Adios.
Make way.
Hooray! Finders keepers!
Sounds like we're making good time.
Everyone okay?
Thanks.
Ribbon tied. Spells ready. Components gathered.
That's it for all of our elemental components. Now, if only we can track down an effigy.
Ugh, Cagliostro knows everybody wants to cuddle up to her. You're icky. Help him! Let's rub the experience.
Disruption!
Team!
Now, I need to blast you into alchemic dust.
I think I'm starting to feel sorry for the spirit. Did you see me? It's the last one! Get him! Did you see me? Did I do great or what?
Excellent. Throw a few spirit guts in the old extractor, and we'll have prime crystals on our hands.
What now? Don't worry about it, Mr. Lizard. Wanna head back to town? Cagliostro, over and out.
When we returned to the studio, Heimel was a flustered whirlwind.
Schnee told me everything. Please, we refuse to let you change her body.
We were shocked to hear his refusal. Well, Vern and Lyria were. I had been expecting it. I'd like to hear the reason from her mouth. She's the one suffering, after all. What right do you have to speak for her? He grimaced.
Schnee has dreamed of being a successful artist ever since she was small. Even after the fever started, she's put her entire soul into her art. And finally...
In his fervent voice, you could hear how long he'd been supporting his sister, praying for her success. And now, after years of hard work, she'd made it. She had recently been invited to participate in an exclusive exhibit, a privilege apparently afforded to very few.
Finally, Schnee will be recognized for her talent. If we throw away her chance now, what will that mean for her future? Or her legacy?
I wasn't sure whether he was gritting his teeth or his fists tighter.
Schnee's been waiting so long for this! Why add this darkness to her life now?
Because you deserve to live your life too, Heimel.
Brother and sister stood opposed, on opposite sides of their future.
I've never thought of you as a burden. I supported you because I love you. It's a blessing to watch you create.
No one doubted his words. More than anything, he wanted Shanae's efforts to bloom into something beautiful. He wanted her future years to remain bright. If her dreams were so close to coming true, he reasoned, then why abandon everything now? He had a point. But he'd never been in Shanae's position before. I had. And I knew what needed to happen this time.
Hello.
Shanae's attitude changed after hearing her brother's plea.
Cagliostro, forgive me. I was selfish, looking for a quick fix. But now, I know I should face this disease and live my life the way I meant to.
Figures. You needed time to process your options. Actually, that was the reason why I asked Heimel about his objections in front of Shanae. She needed to hear his part.
We're sorry for wasting your time. We know it wasn't easy to gather all those components for a new body.
New body? Doesn't ring a bell.
But you said you would give Schnee a new vessel.
Right into my trap. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a bottle of pills and a note, handing them to Shanae. I present to you my genius medicine for slowing the progress of Lycerian fever syndrome. I calculate it's 3 times more effective than the previous tonic. Not hard to manufacture either. I'll give you the recipe. Stop by Sierra's sometime, and she'll help you fill it within 2 to 3 business days.
Wait, Cagliostro, so why did we go all the way to the Pillar of Vayoi?
It wasn't obvious? I needed some stronger base reagents to help synthesize the first batch. My crewmates looked at me with irritation. But when you've lived as long as I have, sometimes you need to spice things up with a few pranks. While we're on the topic, I did a little more research. Experts say that ley lines rebalance themselves after a number of years. Problem is, most people die before it can happen. But with my new prescription, you should be able to make it long enough. No sweat.
Cagliostro, how can we ever repay you? You are everything to this family.
Shanae was so overcome with emotion, she couldn't express her own thanks. I didn't mind her silence, though. Excess sentimentality always spoiled the mood. We had more important topics to discuss anyway. Right, so about payment. The founder of Alchemy developed a new medication specifically for your family. That's gonna cost ya. Heimel swallowed, readying himself for the worst.
I'm a fool. You're absolutely right. We don't have much in the way of money or valuables, but we'll do whatever it takes to...
I think there's been a misunderstanding. You don't get to decide my reward. Are we clear? Shanae and Heimel both nodded in fearful silence. Seeing harmony restored to the studio was a wonderful feeling. I even allowed myself to bask in memories of my sister as a treat. Sometime later, I was visiting Sierra's shop in Folca. You have my payment from Shanae and Heimel?
Sure do. It's a big one, so take good care of her.
From behind the counter, Sierra pulled out a canvas displaying the world's cutest girl. Clear skin, dewy eyes, and a mischievous smile, all framed by soft golden locks. Utter perfection.
Not that I have to explain it to you. Lots of folks have said they'd like to buy this pretty picture. We had to fight off all the amateur art collectors.
Of course. Who wouldn't want a portrait of me? Though I was the only one worthy of owning such a masterpiece.
I was surprised to hear you knew Lady Shanae. Must be a fancy lady, being a master and all.
Wait, master?
Indeedy. Youngest artist declared a master in a good long while. She's really made a name for herself in the market. Here, just got this piece in today.
I had seen it before. It filled me with a resonant vitality, just as it had in that cozy little studio. But now it was accompanied by a price tag of a whopping 5 million rupees. I think I'll add this one to my collection. In all my years of filling vessels with spirits, I had never procured an object with as much soul as Shanae's painting. I had to have it.
Are you sure? That's my biggest budget breaker.
I laughed. A few million rupees for a miracle? Chump change. Unbeknownst to Sierra Carte, I got away with the steal.
Please come again.
I just had to track me down a living, swimming myth. Couldn't be that many lakes harboring legends, right? Turns out there were few eyewitness accounts of such fish. Guess they didn't like flashing their scales as much as the fisher god. But I knew they had to exist. Why would he make up the challenge? So back to Sierra we went. She kindly asked the Fishermen's Guild and scholars to lend their assistance. They told us of a potential target. A beautiful fish, said to have the loveliest iridescent scales in the world. But it had never been caught, so it had yet to receive a proper name within academia. As if to tempt me more, we learned the locals called it the jewel fin. Catching it would be like grabbing a cloud, but the more I heard, the more I needed it. Surely it was a fool's errand. Too bad I was beside myself with determination. A being that existed somewhere between reality and rumor, I had to catch me some of that. Thus, in the coming days, whenever I found a semi-reliable lead, I would fly to the spot and cast my line. Went to salt lakes where a sip of the water would dry you to the bone. Wandered around underground streams where you couldn't see your hand in front of your face, and then every place in between. The captain, Lyria, and Vern accompanied me on my flights of fancy, but they grew tired of the pace. I wouldn't force them. I had planned to make the trip alone anyhow. All I wanted to do was find the unfindable, to catch the uncatchable. It was a good sign, honestly. They say anticipation exists right before accomplishment. Take a new sword technique. You only perfect it the day before a duel. A consequence of pre-battle nerves sending your noggin into overdrive. And this fish-off was a duel to the death for me and the fisher god. It would be the accomplishment of the century for any who lived by the rod. I was having the time of my life. But I knew I didn't have forever. We were in this skydom for a reason, and that mission had to take precedence. I decided my next search would be the last. It brought me to a labyrinthine jungle, which had claimed many adventurers in the past. I heard that somewhere inside was a spring turned monster den. One look at its bewitching twinkle would be enough to drive a man mad, and he'd throw himself into the pool to be swallowed. Relying on those exaggerated claims for guidance, I braved the forested depths to discover not a glorious spring, but a regular old bog. Ugh, ain't no legendary fish ever lived in a place like that. But still, I cast my rod, and Vern and the captain waited with bated breath as they watched me bobber-a-bobbin'. The swamp remained quiet. I was neither overcome with anticipation nor bored from inaction. I was part of the stillness, and my rod was my connection to it. I was one with nature and leap and liver fish a bite. I tugged the fish to the surface and began to tear up as the most perfect, lustrous twinkle broke the murky waters. Turns out none of the scholars' descriptions were quite right. But this was it. This was the jewel fin of legend. How's this for a catch? I proudly displayed the jewel fin before the fisher god. Its scales glistened in iridescent waves, unreal in their beauty. Its fins ethereal and transparent, waved as if kissed by a breeze. That old coot was flabbergasted.
Slap my behind! Where in the seven skies did you find this?
That was a delicious reaction. But of course, the fisher god was a fisherman of taste, and he had a rebuttal prepared. It was a large fish, obsidian in color, whose scales seemed to drink the light like a void. Its dorsal was strong and stiff, as if to mark it as a sea king.
Whoa! 2 legendary fish? Isn't that nuts?
Both of our catches fit the criteria of the competition. It was gonna be too hard to call. Guess we couldn't complain, though. Not every day we got to see such rare specimens. Still, something had to be done. So we turned to Lyria, Vern, and the captain.
I think both are amazing. I've never seen such pretty fish. Can't we just say you're both incredible and be done with it?
Guess 2 legendary fish don't make a champion. Especially when we were both set on wearing the crown. Nope, it didn't sit right with me. Our rivalry pushed the craft of fishing forward, hadn't it? There was fire in our guts, and we deserved to name a proper victor. Vern saw the determination plain on our faces.
You guys aren't gonna let this go, are you? Game's back on, then.
Lyria pondered for a moment and made a suggestion.
How about whoever fishes up the most happiness? That could be interesting.
A genius suggestion. This island was under Avia's control, terrifying the population. It would be a saintly move to give them cheer with a side of full bellies. It was settled. We would go with Lyria's suggestion. He who could bring the most happiness to the island would take it. After a nod to one another, the fisher god and I set out to do some real fishing. Keep up if y'all can. Hope we come across a good fishing spot.
In this blizzard, how are you gonna even see your rod?
Ancient technique.
Hey, why don't you cast from the bridge? You'll probably catch something.
Not a bad idea. Let's give it a whirl. My line ain't reaching from here anyway. Come on, let's move. There's a path somewhere around here that goes down. Mercy! Hey! I can hear running water. You think this here hole has a river at the bottom?
Try and stop me! Come if you
We're
dare!
just looking to fish. What if you want to be a sushi platter? Step right up! Let's show 'em. Run like a bull. Play like a flip.
Can fish even live in weather this cold?
The colder the weather, the fatter the fish. Makes a good barbecue.
Everyone okay?
That's
Back to
neat.
it.
You learn something cool every day.
Not just fun. Been a back at 'em. Go time!
Death take you!
Hallelujah! around. This place is perfect. Let's get started.
Holy crap! Looks like the monsters caught our scent.
Curse their timing. We'll clean them up right quick.
Let's patch you up. Thanks.
Try and suck it!
That takes care of that.
I wouldn't be so sure. Looks like we got a big fella on our hands next.
For real? We don't have time for this.
Yep. And judging by its bad attitude, I don't think it's gonna let us leave without a fight.
It's right there!
Now, this here's a sight to soar on. Sorry, Bub. You're between us and our fishing spot.
All right,
It's taking all that damage, but that hasn't slowed it down a bit. That was a good one. Got my chest and arm all warmed up. Oh, I hope we didn't scare off the fish. Ah. Still in my golden years. Results day had arrived. Residents of Seed Hollow were gathering, waiting to see what bounty we could share.
Feast your eyes. I have caught the elusive brave scale.
The fisher god took to the podium. The largest fish in this skydom strung up behind him. The crowd was wowed by the sheer scale of the thing, and I was no exception. Should have known he'd come out with rod blazing. But I, on the other fin, took a different approach. Behold! All these humble shellmen who make their home in these very rivers. I sure wasn't gonna win through size, but maybe superior numbers would do the trick. Next, the fisher god and I began to fillet our catches, sharing sushi, soup, and ceviche of all sorts with the crowd.
The Brave Beam is delicious. And how do you beat that impact?
The shaman is just as good. It's so fresh and it's been served at the optimal temperature. Absolutely perfect.
Everywhere we looked, there were people enjoying our efforts. Even the crew were getting their fill while they could. But since it was a competition, next up was evaluations. Members of the crowd were to vote on whose catch made them feel better, both in flavor and in general happiness. One after the other, the votes piled up for the fisher god. It was starting to look hopeless. But there was a special reason I chose to serve the shellman. I wasn't panicking just yet.
Shall we call it there, friend?
I gotta hand it to you, fisher god. You served some delicious fish. But let's see how it plays out. While I was talking, a cute little scamp, snot running down his nose and everything, cast a vote for me.
You didn't want to vote for the big fish, sweetie?
It was too big and scary. I like the small fishies.
The fisher god's breath caught for a moment, and I knew he understood my plan.
Hello.
The fisher god bowed his head and admitted I was the winner. But before I could humbly accept his withdrawal, Vern voiced honest confusion.
Looking at the votes, you're the clear winner, aren't you?
Not at all. Without this master of the rod opposite me, these results wouldn't have been possible.
He spoke from the heart. Moved me a bit to hear that he understood me through and through.
It's ordinary fish, ones we consume daily, that bring us health and happiness. Delicacies shine because they're a rare treat, but well-being is built on something more than rarity. Hearing that youngster speak, I understood what Yodarha was trying to tell me. In fact, I couldn't surmise for myself as proof of my hubris.
He continued.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, a child's smile will do more for a village's well-being than all the legendary fish in the sea. That's what I should have been aiming for.
A smirk sat on his lips as he turned to me.
Congratulations, Yodarha. Even had I won this competition, I concede in our fish-off. You are the rightful victor. I've learned much from our duel. I thank you from the depths of my heart.
Never in my days had I met a more worthy gentleman. And you, good sir, helped this old minnow rediscover his love of the sport. After the voting had concluded, the townsfolk were still savoring our dishes. Both Brave Bream and Shalman were a hit. The satisfied smiles of the people were evidence of this. But as all good things must come to an end, so too did the feast. Despite the mountain of fish we started with, not a single fillet was left. I turned to the fisher god, a gleam in my eye. And though he just admitted defeat, his eye held the same twinkle. You want a race to see who can get this place spick and span quicker? We were no longer rivals. We were brothers of the rod. And this little competition would tide us over till our next real match. We were shopping at Sierro's when the merchant herself popped up from behind the counter. Apparently, she'd been waiting on us, ready to share the latest seaworthy gossip.
A certain rumor swam earlier this month. You see, people are saying there are 2 fisher gods working this skydom. Would you know anything about that?
Vern and Lyria gasped in surprise before turning to give me a curious look.
Could it be?
You know, I never meant to keep making a name for myself, but old habits die hard, don't they? Sounds like quite the handsome fella. Can't wait to meet him.
Please come again.